guys, I want to talk about, the scales today. Everyone out there is all about losing pounds, dropping this amount of weight, and then they're going to be good. The scales are useless. They suck. You've got to get off them. They're not the truth. The truth is muscle versus fat. How much muscle do you have? How much fat do you have? It's not about weighing a certain weight. It's not about, being a certain body type. It's about muscle versus fat. Why are the scales useless? Well, because you can have two people, exactly the same height, exactly the same weight. You look at both of them. One person is in great shape, the other person really, really overweight. Same height, same weight. Why is that? If you put them both on the scales, they're both the same. That's why the scales suck. Because the person who's really overweight, they've got really, really little lean muscle mass, meaning they've got no muscle fibers, no muscle tissue, and they've got all this body fat. Meanwhile, the person who looks in shape and is skinny, but yet they're the same weight as this guy, they've got all this muscle mass, lean muscle mass, but hardly any body fat. And that's why, the scales are just crap. And so everyone out there that's saying, oh, I just got to get to, a certain weight, I just got to put on this amount of, another couple of kilos, I've got to put on another 15 pounds, that's just crap. Because everyone is different and it's about muscle versus fat. Now, the reason why, the scales are so bad is because when you have a pound of muscle and a pound of fat, yeah, they weigh the same, they're both a pound, but the fat takes up 4 times more space than muscle would. And so that's why when you got, a really overweight person that's the same weight as a really lean person, that's because they've got all this fat and it takes up all that space to equal the same amount of weight as the person with all the lean muscle mass. So, I don't know how to explain it more. Basically, if you've got a pound of muscle, that's, one finger, then you've also got a pound of fat, but that's 4 fingers. Because, they both weigh the same, but this takes up 4 times the amount of space. For all you guys that, are wanting to make a transformation, and, you want to know where you are currently and where you want to go, then you've got to get off the scales, because the scales will ruin, your transformation, and will ruin, your kind of progress that you want to make. Because you can transform physically and look fantastic after 8 weeks, but you might end up weighing more than when you started. And that's because you're building up all your lean muscle mass, and you're dropping all the fat, and you look lighter and thinner, but you actually might weigh more because the muscle versus fat. Muscle is 18% more denser than fat, and that's why fat needs all that space to get the same amount of room as muscle. So you guys want to track your progress, get off the scales. What you want to do is you want to take photos. Take photos of yourself, different angles, different positions, and then you want to put the date on it. Then you're also going to have your workout program and your diet. So then you can see, well, today I took this photo and this is when I started this diet. So you know exactly when you started the diet, what kind of food you were taking in, and then 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later take another photo, exactly the same position, and you can see if actually that diet has worked, if these workouts have actually worked, because you'll be able to see slight progress. And the scale might not show you any progress at all, because it doesn't matter in terms of fat or muscle. The scale doesn't care about that. It just cares what it's actually weighing. So that's why the visual representation, the photo, that doesn't lie. The mirror doesn't lie. Another good thing that you want to do once you take that photo is you want to take your measurements. Get a measuring tape, and you can actually measure your waistline, your chest, your arms, your thigh, your calves, and you can write them all down next to that date. So the next time, in 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you take the same photos, you take the same measurements, and you can actually see if you've been dieting correctly. You can see if your workout program has actually been working. That's how you're going to measure your results. The scales the scales don't care if you've put on 10 pounds of muscle and dropped 20 pounds of fat. They just weigh what's there. And so the whole world, society, everyone is just so concerned about the scales. Telling their friends, oh, I lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks, I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. Who cares about that? You might still look completely out of shape. It doesn't really matter if you weigh 300 pounds or if you weigh 150 pounds. It's about being, lean and tight and, getting rid of all the fat. The reason why you don't want the fat is because it's only going to lead to, diabetes, heart disease, types of cancers. It's just going to slow you down in life. Just want to break down this fat versus muscle. Fat essentially is just stored energy. You consume all these calories, you've got a caloric surplus, then it's just going to, if you don't burn all those calories that you're consuming, then your body's going to store them. And it's stored energy. And you compare it to your muscle. Muscle is, it's fibers. It's not stored energy at all. You take my two guys that I gave you as an example. Same height, same weight. One guy looks fat, one guy looks fit. They both go for a 1 mile walk. They both do it, the same heart rate, and then they come back. The guy with all the lean muscle mass and not much fat, he's burning so many more calories than the guy who's all fat and no muscle. Now why is that? This guy's getting, two to three times more out of his workout, and the reason is because muscle is that 18% denser, so it takes that much more effort to move the muscle over that mile, when fat, which is just stored energy, doesn't take the same amount of energy and the caloric input to move. So that's why it's so hard when people are like really overweight and obese and they want to get in good condition. They're doing all this effort, but they're only getting that much return. And the people that are already tight and in shape, they're putting in, they could put in that much effort and they're getting all this return, because that lean muscle mass, it takes so much more to move because it's so much more denser. It requires a lot more energy to move because fat is already energy. It doesn't need any more energy to move because it's already stored energy. And I hope that makes sense. I hope that gives you guys, a greater understanding of why the scales are not a true representation of your measurements and of your progress, and they're only going to lead to you being confused, because you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to say, oh well, I'm looking better, but the scale says I'm actually the same weight. Just get rid of the scales. Leave that, for when you're in the kitchen cooking. You don't need it for your measurements. It's all about being lean and about being, tight and in shape. Get rid of all of the fat. You don't need to strip. You don't need it there. It's only going to lead to poor health.